When I first started dating Todd, I was young and naive. I didn't know much about the world, and I definitely didn't know much about other cultures. Sure, I had a Korean cousin, I had 2 African American cousins, I had an uncle from Egypt, and I had an uncle that was a dwarf. I might have known a little bit about diversity, but I really just saw everyone as an equal. I wanted to treat everyone as if they were the same, and didn't want to acknowledge their differences for fear of hurting their feelings. When I got invited to a walk for Todd's cousin Cooper, I was so excited to go away with his family for the first time. I knew his cousin had Down syndrome, but I had never actually met him. I was way more excited to meet the rest of Todd's family than I was for Cooper's big day. That was, of course, until I met him. When I walked in the door, the only thing I could hear was a little boy shouting, "Toddy!" on the top of his little lungs. The joy and utter excitement on Cooper's face was enough to make anyone melt. He was so excited to see his Toddy. After an hour or two, Cooper was just as excited to hang out with his Rhea. At first, I thought the 3 Rheas might have been excessive, but it turned out to have such a heartwarming ring to it every time I heard it that weekend. Sunday came and we got up before sunrise to get ready for the buddy walk. Unsure of what to expect, I put on my Cooper's Troopers shirt for the first time and headed downstairs to pack into the cars. Cooper insisted that his Toddy and Rhea ride in the van with him, and so we did. The whole way, Cooper could not contain his excitement for his big day. When we finally got to the stadium where they hold the walk, I experienced true and genuine culture shock for the first time in my life. I was completely overwhelmed, not by fear or anxiety, but by all the love I saw. There were families everywhere, set up at different tents with pictures of beautiful and happy children with Down syndrome on them. Everywhere I looked was a sign for Katie's Crusaders or Michael's Marchers. People by the hundreds came out to support people with Down syndrome. I remember feeling embarrassed at that moment. I had spent my whole life up until that point being annoyed or irritated by people with special needs. My only real exposure to them had been the 2 or 3 kids in my grade. Suddenly, I realized that I was only annoyed by these kids because that's what everyone else expected me to feel. Other people around me weren't comfortable with people with special needs, so I was expected not to be either. I kept turning around, seeing some of the happiest and most loving kids I'd ever seen. Hugging and kissing, skipping and laughing, and playing with their families and friends. I vowed never to say the R word again, because for the first time, I genuinely didn't think anyone with special needs could actually be considered retarded. I thought of a million words to describe Cooper that day, and not one of them started with the letter R. Since my first buddy walk, I have advocated on behalf of people with special needs, particularly Down syndrome. I speak up whenever I hear someone use the R word. I always make myself heard when I see discrimination, and I make every effort to make other people with Down syndrome smile the way Cooper makes me smile. Cooper has taught me that just because someone is different than you does not make you better than them. In fact, I find the opposite to be true. Cooper's passion for life inspires me to accept people for who they are. He doesn't see me as someone with more privileges or advantages than him. He sees me and everyone he meets as a friend. He has taught me to appreciate people for their differences and acknowledge what those differences mean to them. He has taught me to get to know people for who they are and what they have gone through before I make a judgment.